AskReddit by 3 Dank Mama. Redditors, have you ever gotten a nick from a potential partner or love interest that instantly killed your attraction to them? If so, what happened? Talking about our interests, and after I listened to him blab about his lawnscaping business, I went to talk about my interests and he interrupted me to say, "Wow, you really have nothing interesting to say, do you?" He set the bar too high with lawnscaping. That's really his fault that nothing new had seemed interesting after that. The amount of time he spent plotting revenge, usually against his parents or ex-wife, should have been spent introspectively and on getting his life back on track. We broke up shortly thereafter. Then we tried to reconcile. Then he smoked meth in front of me. And that was the end of that. Grabbed me by the face on the first date, stroked under my eyes and said, "You need to take better care of yourself. Sir, I'm a divorced 37-year with kids, and those under eye circles were passed down from my grandmother, they're family heirlooms. And get your hands off my face, we just met and this is not a Nicholas Sparks movie." Family heirlooms made me cackle. My ex always wanted to do abandoned getaways, but she would always suggest places that are literally mansions, and she expected me to pay for it myself. I argued against some of these places because they were too damn expensive, and she mentioned that her exes made almost as much as me and they would book these abandons no problem. I never told her at this point how much I made, and that turned me off her completely with that statement. Had a guy once whose car smelled so bad I had to try not to throw up while sticking my head out the window. He couldn't smell it. I thought I was going to die. Turns out he forgot about a double cheeseburger in the back of his car for over 2 weeks in the hot sun. I don't know what bothered me more, the smell or the fact that it didn't bother him. I had an issue like this when my kids were little. Found a perfectly mummified Wendy's cheeseburger under a booster seat, solid as a rock. It didn't even smell bad. Literally every single problem she had was someone else's fault. Even when there was proof it was her fault, she would argue non-stop that it was someone else's. She got in a car wreck and called insurance over and over again to tell them that it was the other person's fault. They checked the computer in her car because it saved her speed she was going right before the wreck. It told them everything they needed to know and she still denied it. Those types are dangerous. Nice dodge. He bullied someone in front of me. Instant disgust. Found out the reason he rented the house next door to his parents was so his mom would make his meals, wash his clothes, etc. Had the audacity to say, "Let me call my mom," when I mentioned I was a little hungry. LMAO, like it's a flex in the same way summoning a personal chef would be. Poor lady, although I suspect her enabling is much to blame for this. She constantly thought everyone wanted to fuck her all the time, even strangers. Dude, I knew a girl like this. I was in some classes with her and we got along fine, but apparently through the grapevine found out she'd been talking to everyone about how much I wanted to fuck her. I then found out she had been saying something very similar about almost any dude who interacted with her. It started to come off in a very sad way. It was a frustrating mix of massive egoism and coping. I couldn't tell if it was a self-esteem thing or what. She had a boyfriend at the time, but I felt kinda bad for the dude. Realized he was faking seizures our entire relationship to get out of helping me do chores, cook meals. Edit, we dated for less than a year. Found out from his friend's family he never had a seizure in front of them. Came home one night after working a double. I asked him to please try to make dinner. Found him asleep and woke him up to let him know I was home. "Where's dinner?" He said he had a seizure. This caused an argument where he admitted he faked it. He said his seizures were caused by flashing lights. Took him to countless doctors and no one could replicate what I saw all the time. After he admitted it, it finally clicked. He's been faking it the whole time. Ruffle, what the fuck? At first I was interested in her because she seemed really cool and funny, But then it became apparent that literally everything out of her mouth was cool and funny. It was impossible to have a real conversation, even a casual one. Instead it was constant Arrested Development lines and sarcasm. She replaced the word dollars with doll hairs, which I chuckled at the first time, but she said it every time, like she was trying to earn Reddit karma in real life conversations. Drove me nuts. Imagine thinking having the personality of a Redditor is a good thing, LMAO. She was best friends with another girl who she constantly spoke shit about when said friend wasn't around. It wasn't the sole reason, but this was a large reason why I got out of the most toxic relationship I've ever been in. She constantly complained, talked shit about all of the closest people in her life, parents, best friends, AA sponsor, co-workers. Eventually this ire started getting directed at our mutual friends, and then my friends. It was only a matter of time before that vitriol became directed at me, and sure enough it did. She did not take the breakup well, oh boy. Brief, but scariest relationship I've been in. In college I was seeing a girl who lived in student residence with me, but on another floor. She would always talk about how another guy, Tom, on her floor was obsessed with her and would show me texts between them. She said she only talked to him because he's harmless and that they're friends. I never met him. After a week, her ex-friend from high school pulled me aside and told me not to trust her. She said that the girl I was seeing is a notorious liar and that Tom doesn't exist. That she added her own number in her phone as Tom, would text herself, and then delete the sent messages. The only reason her ex-friend knew is because she saw the text message exchange happen in the reflection of a mirror when they were in the same room. I was close with front desk and asked if they could look up the names from that floor. They said yes, and told me that there was no guy named Tom on her floor. I noped out of that real quick. Man, props to her former friend for looking out for you. Absolute bro move. First red flag, he wanted me to drive because he had an interlock. Second, he talked about biting the ear off his ex's new boyfriend. Third was the jugs of urine scattered in his living room. There was no second date. You just casually mention jugs of urine, like you don't think that kinda needs a little more explanation? He asked me if I could avoid showers before we met. I can avoid you is what I can do. Deleted. My brief GF bought me some hair care products before she came over because it was right by her house. In return I said I would go grocery shopping and make her a nice dinner. I thought this to be an even exchange. That night I found her looking through my trash for the receipt for the groceries to make sure that the $30 she spent on me was equal to the amount I spent on her dinner. Edit, just to clarity before it becomes two man vs woman. I saw her parents do this to her. It was her upbringing. She did this in every aspect of her life, which gave me the ick, but she did not have very good role models. And you are 100% sure that she was actually dating you and not from the IRS? Dated a guy who seemed chill but kept talking about social media and how people exes were scheming against him. I believed him at first until it got to the point where he thought things like a photo someone put up was an indicator that they were getting him back, when these people were literally just doing normal things and posting normal stuff. I think he was schizophrenic, but it was really unsettling. Months later he rang me out of the blue to ask me about a link between his ex, myself and a friend. The link was butterflies, and because of this link he thought we were conspiring against him. It's funny because I took a psych evaluation recently and there were all these questions like, I believe people are conspiring against me, true, false, and now I get what those were about. Making assumptions about me on the first day. I suppose someone like you, or a girl like you, wouldn't understand. I am literally right here. Ask me. Don't tell me what my life is or is like. Anyway, eventually I got up and left. They messaged me what my problem is, so I wrote back something to the effect of, a boy like you wouldn't understand even if I told you. Nice. Least you had a great response in the tank. Went on a date with a guy I met at a party. He made me prove that I liked Lord of the Rings by answering who said what when he quoted someone. He pulled out a notebook of really poorly drawn anime characters and asked me if he could draw me. He was a lot shorter than me and asked if it bothered me. I said no. Then he said good, I like Amazonian goddesses. He kept trying to put his jewelry onto me despite my protests. He asked what I wanted to order for food, then ignored me and ordered me something else and got frustrated I didn't eat it all. He referenced being arrested, made me guess what for, and when I refused to guess for not knowing him well enough he said GBH. He was a trainee doctor and asked if I'd ever broken any bones. When I replied yes, he said that he was going to look up my x-rays. And the icing on the cake. When I wanted to leave he got my knee-high boots, slip. Well, this got weirder and weirder. Maybe not instantly killed, but a really lovely woman telling me in a sincere voice that she loved me, 3-4 hours after meeting her, freaked me the fuck out in a way that I guess could reasonably be described as the ick. In no way was the statement couched either, just straight up I love you. Think I responded, no, you don't. You've been Ted Mosby'd. He chewed food with his mouth open and it sounded like 1,000 octopuses being thrown at and snatched off a glass wall. Hearing people eat is one of my biggest pet peeves, so I'm loving this thread for all of the creative descriptions, and this one absolutely wins. Got wasted at movies, got mad I wouldn't let her drink like walking around the mall. At movies she was audibly biting her nails and spitting them out, kicking person's seat in front of us. There was almost a fight about it. Said I had to get the fuck out of here, dropped her ass off at home, invited me and kept calling me her ex's name. I simply closed the door and never looked back. Somehow I'm an asshole though. This thread is saving my marriage. No kidding. My parents love to say that after going out in public, there's no one else they'd rather go home with. They invited me over for dinner, and to clean the table they just slung the food off the plates across the kitchen floor for the pack of dogs they had to fight over. Possibly the most unhinged crack house behavior I've seen in this thread. She wanted me to only call her the name of her high school bully, who was Guy, that she said she couldn't stand, repeatedly. Too much to unpack. Edit. This happened like 5 years ago. I was 23 at the time and didn't really know much about dating except for what I learned in high school and was just coming to accept my sexuality. I admit, when things started to get intense I should have ended it, but I got out. This was supposed to be a little haha, look how crazy this relationship was thing. I cried my tears and I'm doing so much better for myself. That's wild. Was it some sort of odd kink? She started trauma dumping on me, and after telling her multiple times that I wasn't comfortable talking about this in an extremely public place with kids around, she just kept going. She went into extreme detail too, showing me pictures and stuff. When I mentioned getting therapy she said that she didn't want to change. Hard pass. Damn. Actively saying you don't want to change when in a relationship is a big red flag. He talked in baby voice 70% of the time and only masturbated via giving his dick a bunch of small smacks over and over until he came. As a guy, I have no idea how that would even work. Not a serious relationship but a casual hookup. We only knew each other for about 4 months and he shit his pants twice in that time period. The first time I was like okay, people get sick and things happen, and tried to let it go, but the second time he texted me to tell me about it and said it happened as he was walking out of the bathroom. It never happened around me, but he would tell me about it and also bring it up in front of my friends. He thought it was very funny and normal for a grown man to do. He also once farted during sex, which I ignored. BC things happen, but then proceeded to bring it up right after and wouldn't let the conversation go. He was proud of it. There were so many other issues him that were red flags, but that was enough for me to know about. Making spills, messes and leaving it for long periods of time without cleaning it up, like months. My sister's husband will leave dog pee on the floor for days or just pour bleach on it and then wonder why he starts coughing when he literally just made mustard gas. Deleted. Did you hear me? Yes. I was giving you the opportunity to backtrack from being a moron, but I see you're unfortunately incapable.